I worked as a high school history teacher, making about $65,000. Yeah, she made almost 3 times what I did, and she never let me forget it. We have 2 kids, both adults now. Our son is 26, married, living across the country. Our daughter is 24, married, and just had her first baby 10 months ago. Beautiful little girl. I was there at the hospital when she was born. My wife wasn't invited. That should tell you everything you need to know about how this story ends. My wife never gave me any reason to think she was a cheater, at least not at first. To be honest, guys, I never saw anything in our marriage that made it crack. Sure, she traveled a lot for work, regional conferences, site inspections, training seminars, but she always came home, always called when she said she would. I trusted her always. I really didn't have a reason not to. That trust started cracking about 2 years ago. She started coming home later and later, not from trips, just from work. She'd say she was meeting with vendors, entertaining clients, closing deals. The money kept coming in, so I didn't question it. She'd walk in at 9, 10 at night, sometimes later. I would have dinner waiting. She barely touched it, say she ate with clients. Then came the phone thing. She'd always been casual about her phone, left it on the counter, didn't care if I picked it up. Suddenly, that phone was attached to her like another limb. It was like you needed a top secret clearance to get near it. She told me I was being overly paranoid and just leave her be about her phone. I'm a teacher. I know when someone's lying to me. I've seen thousands of kids try to BS their way through excuses. My wife was using the same playbook, but I didn't have proof, just a gut feeling that something was wrong. Then, about 16 months ago, I got a call from this number I wasn't familiar with. I let it go to voicemail the first time, but they kept calling, and finally I answered. Woman's voice, shaking with anger. "Is this about my wife?" I asked. "Your wife is sleeping with my husband," she said. "He's the VP of operations at the hotel chain she works for. They've been having an affair for 14 months. It felt like the room was spinning after she said that. I asked her how she knew. "I hired a private investigator 6 months ago," she said. "I've got photos and videos of them together. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. I also went through our joint bank account and credit card statements and found charges my husband made that I didn't know about. Hotel rooms in cities where he claimed to be on business, expensive dinners, charges at jewelry stores. He was using our money to wine and dine your wife. I'm filing for divorce next week, and I thought you should know what your wife's been doing." She offered to send me copies of everything. I said yes. What I saw made me sick. Photos of my wife and this guy at restaurants, holding hands and shit, getting into the same car, entering hotels together, kissing in a parking lot, leaving hotels together hours later. The timestamp showed this had been going on for 14 months, over a year of lies. But here's what really got me. The affair partner's wife also sent me copies of bank statements and credit card statements from their joint accounts. She'd highlighted charges her husband made for hotel rooms, expensive restaurants, and gifts. The dates and locations matched up perfectly with my wife's business trips. Same cities, same dates, sometimes even the same hotels where my wife claimed the company had booked her. Her affair partner had been using their marital money to fund the affair, paying for hotel rooms where he met up with my wife, paying for expensive dinners, buying her gifts. His wife had been funding my wife's affair without even knowing it. I didn't confront my wife right away. I'm not stupid. I knew if I tipped my hand too early, she'd lawyer up and try to screw me over. So I played it cool. I kept acting like everything was normal. Meanwhile, I made copies of everything the affair partner's wife sent me, put it all on a flash drive, talked to an attorney on the down low. My attorney told me that while we live in a state that allows no-fault divorce, Evidence of an affair could still impact the division of property. The affair and the deception could be considered when determining what's equitable. My attorney also told me to hire my own private investigator. He said that having independent verification of the affair would strengthen the evidence and establish proper chain of custody. I hired a PI. Over the next 2 months, he documented everything. Photos of them at restaurants together multiple times, photos of them arriving at hotels together and leaving hours later, photos of them kissing, not in just parking lots, but everywhere they had a chance to. But they wouldn't always do it in the city where they were known. He even got photos of my wife and her affair partner going into his house when his wife wasn't home and not leaving until hours later. He documented dates, times, locations, vehicle information. The PI's report was thorough and ironclad. Now I had 2 sources of evidence, the affair partner's wife's PI and my own PI, both showing the same affair, the same timeline, the same pattern of deception. About 2 months after I found out, my wife came home and told me she wanted a divorce. No explanation, no apology, just, I want a divorce. I'm not happy anymore. I haven't been happy for a long time. I asked her if there was someone else. She looked me dead in the eye and said no. Said she just needed space, needed to find herself. All the cliches cheaters use when they're too cowardly to admit the truth. I told her okay. Said if that's what she wanted, we'd figure it out. She seemed relieved. She probably thought I was going to roll over and make it easy for her. She moved out 2 weeks later, rented a condo, said she needed her own space while we worked through the divorce. I knew she was probably planning to move her affair partner in eventually, but I didn't say anything. Let her think she was getting away with it. Our kids were furious with her, our daughter especially. She called her mother and demanded to know what was going on. My wife fed her the same line about needing space, about not being happy. Our daughter didn't buy it. She's sharp, just like her old man. Are you cheating on Dad? Our daughter asked. My wife denied it, swore up and down there was no one else. Our daughter told her she didn't believe her, and if she found out she was lying, she would never forgive her. I didn't tell our kids what I knew. That wasn't my place. I wanted them to form their own opinions based on their mother's actions, not my words. About 3 months after my wife moved out, our daughter called me. She was crying. Dad, I know the truth, she said. My friend saw Mom at a restaurant with some guy. They were all over each other. She took a picture and sent it to me. Our daughter confronted her mother the next day. This time, my wife couldn't deny it. She admitted to the affair, told our daughter it was complicated, that she and I had grown apart, that her affair partner made her happy. Our daughter told her she was disgusted, said she didn't want to hear excuses. My wife tried to justify it and said our daughter didn't understand, that marriage is complicated. Our daughter said, "You're right. I don't understand how you could do this to Dad. He's been nothing but good to you." That conversation happened about 7 months before our daughter gave birth. By the time our daughter was pregnant and preparing for the baby, she'd already cut her mother off emotionally. When our daughter went into labor, she called me. She didn't call her mother. I was there in the delivery room when my granddaughter was born, held her minutes after she came into this world. It was one of the best moments of my life. My wife called me that night, crying, begging me to convince our daughter to let her come, see the baby. I told her that was between her and our daughter. I wasn't getting involved. She accused me of turning our kids against her. I told her she did that all on her own. The divorce process dragged on for months. My wife's attorney kept pushing for a quick settlement, wanted to split everything down the middle, no alimony for either party. My attorney said no, said we were going to court. My wife thought she had the upper hand. She made more money. She had an expensive attorney. She figured the judge would side with her. maybe even make me pay her something since I'd been living off her income for years. What she didn't know was that I had all the evidence: two private investigators' reports, credit card statements from her affair partner's accounts showing he funded the entire affair, photos, videos, timestamps, receipts, and I was saving it all for court. The hearing was set for early September. This was back in June when we got the date. In the meantime, something happened that I didn't expect. The affair partner's wife saw my wife at the grocery store. This was late August, about 3 weeks before our court date. My wife was shopping, probably picking up wine and fancy cheese for her and her affair partner. The affair partner's wife was there with her teenage daughter. She told me later that she'd been holding it together for months, going through her own divorce, dealing with the humiliation, trying to keep it together for her kids. But when she saw my wife casually shopping, like she hadn't destroyed two families, something in her snapped. The affair partner's wife walked right up to her and said, "You're sleeping with my husband." My wife tried to walk away. That's when the affair partner's wife grabbed her by the arm and spun her around. "Don't you dare walk away from me," she said. My wife jerked her arm free and said something I didn't hear, but the affair partner's wife told me later it was, "That's between him and me. Stay out of it." That set her off. The affair partner's wife shoved my wife hard enough that she stumbled backward into a shopping cart. My wife came back at her, and that's when the affair partner's wife really lost it. She grabbed my wife by the hair and slammed her face first into the hood of a car in the parking lot. By this time, they were outside. My wife went down, and the affair partner's wife got on top of her, hitting her, screaming at her. Store employees pulled her off. Police were called. The affair partner's wife was arrested for assault. My wife had a black eye, a split lip, and a bruised ego. The whole thing was captured on the store's security cameras and someone's cell phone video. My wife pressed charges, played the victim, acted like she was the innocent party who got attacked for no reason. But word got around fast. People talk in this town. Within days, everyone knew why the affair partner's wife had attacked my wife. My wife's co-workers found out about the affair. Her boss found out. Suddenly, her perfect little life wasn't so perfect anymore. The hotel chain has a strict policy about relationships between executives, especially when there's a power dynamic involved. The affair partner, as vice president of operations, was technically in a position of authority over my wife as a regional director. The company launched an investigation. My wife's affair partner got demoted to a regional manager position at a property 3 hours away. My wife got a formal reprimand and was put on a performance improvement plan. The message was clear: one more screw up and she was out. She blamed me for all of it, called me up screaming, saying I must have told the affair partner's wife where she'd be. I didn't. I had nothing to do with it. I told her that, but she didn't believe me. She was spiraling, looking for someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. By the time our court date rolled around in early September, my wife was a mess, but she was still trying to project confidence. She walked into that courtroom in a designer suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. Expensive heels, hair professionally done to cover the fading bruise on her temple from the parking lot incident. She sat down at her table, whispered something to her attorney, and then looked over at me, not with the smug smile she used to have, but with this defiant look, like she was daring me to try something, like she still thought she was going to win. The judge came in and we got started. Discussion of asset division, alimony, all the boring legal stuff. My wife's attorney went first. He argued that since my wife was the primary breadwinner throughout the marriage, there was no reason for her to pay alimony. Said I had my own income, my own pension from teaching, and that I wasn't entitled to her money just because we were married. He proposed a 50-50 split of all marital assets and no alimony for either party. Then my attorney stood up. Your Honor, we'd like to submit evidence that my client's wife engaged in an extramarital affair for over 14 months during the marriage. This affair directly contributed to the breakdown of the marriage and demonstrates a sustained pattern of deception. My wife's face was like she lost her best friend. Her attorney objected immediately, said it was irrelevant that we lived in a state that allows no-fault divorce. The judge held up his hand. Counselor, while this is a no-fault state, evidence of marital misconduct can be considered when determining equitable distribution of assets. I'll allow it. My attorney pulled out the flash drive and handed it to the bailiff. The judge plugged it into his computer, and I watched my wife's defiant expression start to crack. My attorney walked the judge through everything. Your Honor, this flash drive contains reports from 2 independent private investigators, both documenting the affair. It also contains credit card statements from the affair partner's joint marital accounts, showing that he used marital funds to finance this affair. These charges directly correlate with my client's wife's business trip schedule, proving the affair took place during times when she claimed to be traveling for work. The judge pulled up the first photo. My wife and her affair partner at a restaurant, holding hands and being intimate at other places. He scrolled through more. Them getting into a car together, them arriving at a hotel together and leaving hours later, kissing in a parking lot, them entering the affair partner's home together while his wife was away, with timestamps showing they didn't leave for hours. Then came the credit card statements and bank records, highlighted charges for hotel rooms in cities where my wife claimed to be on business trips, dinners at expensive restaurants, charges at jewelry stores. My attorney continued, Your Honor, while my client's wife was careful not to use joint funds directly, the affair partner spent approximately $23,000 of his marital funds on this relationship. This demonstrates the scope and duration of the affair, and while my client cannot claim dissipation for money his wife didn't spend, it establishes the deliberate, ongoing nature of the relationship and my client's wife's knowledge that she was participating in the destruction of another marriage. The judge looked up at my wife. Ma'am, were you aware that your affair partner was using his marital funds to finance your relationship, hotel rooms, dinners, gifts? My wife's attorney jumped in. Your Honor, my client declines to answer on the advice of counsel. The judge's expression hardened. Counselor, this is a civil proceeding, not a criminal trial. Your client can decline to answer, but I can draw negative inferences from that refusal. He turned back to his computer and continued reviewing the evidence. Then he got to the text messages. The affair partner's wife had pulled these from her husband's phone before filing for divorce, and my PI had verified them through cell phone records subpoenaed with a court order with an attorney. Messages between my wife and her affair partner talking about their future together, how they couldn't wait to be rid of their spouses, how they were going to move in together as soon as the divorces were final. One message from my wife said, "He has no idea. Sometimes I feel bad, but then I remember how boring he is and I get over it." That one stung, but it also made me angrier than I'd ever been. The judge read through the messages in silence. The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear people breathing. Finally, he looked up. "Ma'am, is this you in these photos?" My wife hesitated, then said, "Yes, Your Honor." "And were you aware your affair partner was spending thousands of dollars on hotel rooms and gifts for you?" Another hesitation. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge sat back in his chair. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You engaged in an extramarital affair for over a year. You knowingly participated in a relationship where your affair partner was using his marital funds to pay for hotels and gifts for you. You lied to your husband repeatedly about your business trips, which were actually rendezvous with this man, and then you filed for divorce without disclosing the real reason for the breakdown of the marriage. My wife didn't say anything. Her attorney tried to speak, but the judge held up his hand. "Counselor, I've heard enough. Here's my ruling." He looked down at his notes, then back up. "While I cannot award compensation for funds that were not taken from this marriage directly, the evidence clearly shows a sustained pattern of deception over 14 months. The defendant scheduled her business trips to coordinate with her affair partner, used company time and resources to facilitate this relationship, and repeatedly lied to the plaintiff about her activities." My wife's mouth fell open slightly. The judge continued, "I'm awarding the plaintiff 60% of all marital assets due to the breach of fiduciary duty to the marriage and the extended period of deception." My attorney was taking notes, keeping his expression neutral, but I could tell he was pleased. As for alimony, the judge said, the plaintiff earned approximately $65,000 per year, while the defendant earned $180,000. That's a significant disparity. Under normal circumstances, I might not award alimony given that the plaintiff has his own income and pension. However, these are not normal circumstances. He paused. "Ma'am, you spent 28 years as the higher earner in this marriage. Your husband supported your career, managed the household, and by all accounts was a faithful spouse. You chose to betray that trust and engage in a lengthy affair while lying repeatedly about your whereabouts. I find that the plaintiff is entitled to alimony." My wife looked like she might be sick. "I'm awarding the plaintiff alimony in the amount of $2,500 per month for a period of 7 years. This is modifiable only if the plaintiff remarries or cohabitates with the romantic partner. You will also be responsible for 60% of his attorney's fees, as the necessity for litigation was caused by your failure to disclose the affair and your pattern of deception." The judge looked at both attorneys. "Anything else?" My wife's attorney looked shell-shocked. "Your Honor, we'd like to request a continuance to review these findings and potentially appeal." "You can appeal if you'd like, Counselor, but this ruling stands. Divorce granted." It was over. My wife sat there frozen. Her attorney was frantically taking notes, probably already thinking about the appeal. My wife turned to look at me, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not sadness, not regret, just fear that she'd lost. My attorney shook my hand. "That went better than I expected," he said. I smiled and shook my head. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted. We gathered our things and left the courtroom. Outside, my wife was standing by the courthouse steps with her attorney. They were having an intense conversation. When she saw me, she broke away and walked over. "You planned this," she said. "You knew about his wife. You probably even told her where I'd be that day." I looked at her. This woman I'd been married to for 28 years. This woman I'd loved, trusted, built a life with, and I didn't recognize her anymore. "I didn't plan anything," I said. "His wife did what she did on her own. I had nothing to do with it." "I'm going to appeal this," she said. "My attorney says the judge overreached. We'll get this overturned." "Good luck with that," I said. "You've got the money for it." "Oh, wait, not as much as you used to." She glared at me. "The kids will come around. They'll forgive me eventually." I shook my head. "Our daughter wouldn't let you meet your granddaughter for the first 6 months of her life. You really think she's going to forgive you for what you did?" My wife didn't have an answer for that. She turned and walked back to her attorney. I watched her get in her car and drive away. That was 4 months ago. The alimony payments started coming in like clockwork. $2,500 a month, directly deposited into my account. I put most of it into a college fund for my granddaughter. I don't really need it for myself, but it's nice to know it's going somewhere good. My wife did appeal. Her attorney filed the paperwork 3 weeks after the hearing, but 2 months later, the appeals court upheld the judge's ruling, said there was ample evidence of sustained deception and breach of marital trust, and that the original judge hadn't overstepped. That was it. Boom, we were done. Our daughter still won't talk to her. My granddaughter has been over to meet her grandmother a few times now that she's older, but it's supervised and brief. My wife shows up with gifts, tries to play the doting grandmother, but our daughter keeps her at arm's length. Our son is civil but distant. He told me a few months ago that he's disappointed in his mother, that she didn't raise him to treat people the way she treated me. That meant a lot. The affair partner's wife's assault case got pleaded down to a misdemeanor. She took a deal: 6 months probation, anger management classes, community service. The prosecutor could have pushed for more, but my wife didn't fight the plea deal, probably didn't want any more attention on why the assault happened in the first place. My wife's affair partner and my wife are still together, as far as I know. He's working at that hotel 3 hours away, comes home on weekends. My wife is still at her regional director job. She's on thin ice. One more incident and she's out. I also heard that the affair partner's ex-wife took him for everything in their divorce. She got the house, full custody of their 2 kids, and he's paying substantial child support and alimony. Guess they're both paying the price for their choices now. I am doing well, as I must say, after all this. I've got my kids, my granddaughter, my job, I've got my dignity, I've got my house, 60% of our retirement accounts, and $2,500 a month from the woman who thought she could walk all over me. The truth is, I didn't destroy my wife. She destroyed herself. I just made sure she didn't destroy me in the process. My wife thought she was untouchable, thought her money and her job and her affair partner would protect her from consequences. She was wrong, and that defiant look she had when she walked into court, I'll never forget the moment it crumbled. The moment she realized she'd lost everything. That moment is probably the second best moment of my life. The first best was holding my granddaughter in the delivery room. And as Tony would say sometimes, don't ever let someone make a fool out of you